what is your most famous work?
I think our most famous work of Simone, Simons and me, Peter Bosch, is a work that has a Dutch title, which is De Krachtgever, and that means something, something that gives power to the public. And it's a very big work with wooden boxes on metal springs, and with motors we can make the boxes and the springs move. They can go up and down or move like that, and there are objects in the boxes and you can hear the objects more or less dancing in the boxes.
In which countries have you exhibited?
In many countries, in Europe maybe 15 or something, also in Sweden, never in Turkey, but in most of the countries of Western Europe we have had over the years an exhibition, and because we worked already together since 1986, so it's almost 30 years now. And also outside of Europe we have had exhibitions like in Japan, in Hong Kong, Australia, Canada.
Which works are your favorites?
Maybe the most of the time the latest works impress you more. Not most famous work with the boxes is maybe also one of our best works, but that's already 20 years old now, so I do not get really much excited when I build it up again and listen to it. So one of the works that I like, that is very new, is a work that that I don't think you have pictures of. A very small work with motors that make sounds, and it's maybe not a very spectacular work, but because we just finished this work, we still get excited of it.
From where do you get the ideas?
Most of the works, they start with an experience we had somewhere. Some other works, that's more something of discovering things from physics. Like for instance this work with the springs. This is something, because we work so many years with springs, we finally managed to make a spring that has this interesting behavior of a wave that goes from one side to another. But sometimes it's really an experience. One of the few works where we do a lot with image and light started here at the Lavadero of the Arrabal. Because when the sun shines in the water in the morning, you have very nice images on the walls because of the waves of the water. So we thought we were going to make also a work with a liquid that moves and light that reflects on the liquid. So many times it's an experience that we had and that was exciting, and then we have a starting point, and then maybe a few months or sometimes a few years later we have a work.
Why and when did you decide to work in this job?
That's not something that you decide from one day to the other. I have been playing in many bands, so I was a musician before I started to work together with Simone. And Simone had, when we got to know each other, was studying at the art school in Amsterdam. So we started to work together, and in the beginning it was maybe just something like slideshow, and of those transparent pictures that you put in a machine that doesn't exist anymore, because everybody works now with computer to look to images. And then I made some music, and then we started to make this kind of machines. Maybe in the beginning that also people played with the machines, and then we decided we're going to work with electronics, so the machines or the artworks, they can produce their own sound or their own music. So maybe in a course of years, maybe in about 4 years, you could say we went more and more to machines that play themselves. And in the beginning we also did things like performances or work together with dancers. So it's not something, it's something that grows over time. It's not something that you decide from one day to the other.
Where are you going to exhibit this year?
It's difficult to say because we are in contact with many places, but sometimes you are talking with places and then it doesn't work out. But I think the next exhibition will be in Holland with that famous old work, which is now maybe over the years traveling a lot in Holland and in Belgium. So that will be probably in June. And then the next will be in Tortosa in Catalonia with an older work. And we are probably also go to Canada, to Toronto, and also to France. But all these things, well, some of them are more sure than others.
Okay.
Could you explain me something about your style?
Yes, we work very often with old materials, or maybe materials that we found. Like this is for instance not really old. It's containers that many people use to keep water in or chemicals. But many times people say that it looks really almost old-fashioned because on one hand we make electronic art, we use things from industry, and we make more kind of electronic music. But most of the time when people make this kind of things, you see a computer and you see maybe projections, and nowadays very often animation made by computer. So I think one of the special things of us is that we do things that maybe in a way are very modern, but that they look very old-fashioned or archaic.
How do you produce your work?
Because we work with many times we have to solve technical problems. Big part of our work is once when we have a starting point is a lot of research, trying things like different springs, or for instance with this work, if you connect it to another thing than this, it sounds very different. So we always have a starting point, maybe an idea or an experience, and then we have a long period of research, trying all kinds of things, until we decide, well, this is something we want to show to other people, this not, or this is maybe working not properly. So a lot of our work is research, trying things out, and then make decisions. And then in the end, of course, you want that it sounds good, that it looks good, and that it works in a good way. So there are many practical things that are maybe not really artistic, but very important.
Okay.